Yo, what up, everyone? Mike Hill, the Wholesaling Titan here, and I hope that you're staying safe and keeping healthy. Now, today's video, I'd like to discuss the coronavirus and how it impacts you as a wholesaler flipping real estate. Specifically, I want to get away from the theories and politics and give you some actionable steps that you need to be taking in your business as soon as possible. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing in my business, what my mentor is doing in his business, and what other wholesalers in some of my high-level mastermind groups are doing in their businesses as well, to make sure that you not only survive during the pandemic, but that you actually thrive and come out in an even better place than where you are now. And for you're new to wholesaling, how this can actually be the best time for you to get started. So essentially, as a wholesaler, you're like the Amazon of real estate, meaning that you go to the source and you acquire the product at a lower price than what the average individual can acquire because they don't have that direct access. You then mark up the price to make your profit, but you still resell it at a price that's significantly below retail. Now, because of the uniqueness of this model, you can still do this in any economy or market just by tweaking your strategies. Like, people are always going to need a place to live. People are always going to buy real estate. But again, given the current pandemic, there's just a few pivots that you really need to make. So this is an article from the Wall Street Journal written just a few days ago. The title is Real Estate Investors Eye Potential Bonanza in Distressed Sales. Now, I want to get into some of the specifics there in just a second, but first, let me stress that there is going to be a very limited window to make these changes and position yourself in a way to maximize your potential during this time. Here's a quote here by billionaire Charlie Munger. If you don't know who that is, that's Warren Buffett's business partner and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. And here he says, a lot of opportunities in life tend to last a short while due to some temporary inefficiency. For each of us, really good investment opportunities aren't going to come along too often and won't last too long. So you've got to be ready to act and have a prepared mind. So that said, I highly recommend you take some notes and start implementing these things as soon as you finish this video. Also, I just want to preface these next few tips by saying, of course I realize that people are hurting, right? People are sick. Our healthcare system is overwhelmed. Family, friends, and loved ones are dying. And this is not to minimize or be insensitive to any of that or to discount the pain that some people are going through right now. But the fact of the matter is, look, this has also created a window of unprecedented opportunity, at least in recent history, where you can create massive profits. And it's been this way throughout history. Whenever there are changes during periods of economic downturn or uncertainty, there will inevitably be winners and there are going to be losers. If you look at the Great Depression, for example, even though the majority of Americans got crushed, there were more millionaires made during that time than in any other time in the history of our country. During our last recessions, wholesalers who knew how to adapt, they made an absolute killing. Back in the early 2000s, my mentor, in fact, made the majority of his initial wealth flipping houses in the aftermath of a major hurricane. So basically, he was going to people, going to homeowners and giving them the opportunity to keep the insurance money, saying, yo, keep the insurance money, sometimes incentivized with a few $1,000s. Keep the insurance money, here's $10,000, just walk away. And that's how he's got his start. And so, again, that's not to take advantage of people or unfortunate situations. It really does stem from a mentality of service. Like, people are going to be hurting, and they're going to need solutions to problems. And when you can solve those problems in a way that is beneficial and benefits them, it's okay for you to make a profit as well. It's got to be a win-win situation. Now, before I get into the super specific points directly related to wholesaling and real estate, I feel compelled to at least mention a broader and perhaps a generic point on the importance of your mentality and your focus right now. So, recently, I've seen so many pointless discussions and arguments on the subject. I mean, people just going back and forth on Facebook talking about, yo, who's to blame? How accurate are the numbers and conspiracy theories and which lab cooked this shit up? And these are points that may even have some validity, right? But that's not the discourse that's going to put you in a place to succeed right now. Gossiping does not equal a check. Similarly, a lot of folks are constantly dialed into the news right now, I mean, they just have this stuff running 24/7, or they're checking news websites multiple times a day. I get my parents texting me, "Did you hear this?" And like, well, I can understand the importance of staying informed when it comes to certain things. You do not need to have CNN or Fox or whatever news source just running 24/7. You don't need an update every time someone's impacted by this, every time a person dies, every time someone files for unemployment. In the context of your business, this is just nothing more than a distraction. It doesn't help you in any measurable way. I know people that just watch these daily briefings is basically out of boredom and becomes a habit, and it's more or less fueled by its entertainment value. And when you look at your actions, you should be thinking, yo, like, what is the direct result of the thing that I'm doing? And so, on that note, when the government, I don't know, mandates a stay at home order, or when we get a vaccine or a treatment, like, trust me, like, you're going to know. So, the first step I'm recommending here is to limit, if not turn off, your consumption of the constant news and watching those daily briefings. A lot of that stuff is regurgitated information for ratings. It's going to be important for two reasons. Now, the first actually has to do with your health. And yes, this is slightly off topic, but just stick with me for a second and we'll bring this thing back to wholesaling. But the quick version is this. Look, I was listening to Dr. Bruce Lipton the other day, and he was talking about how our bodies evolved to have our fight or flight mechanism. I'm sure you're aware of. So, stepping back to caveman days, if saber-toothed tiger is trying to kill you, all bodily resources would divert to support us, either fighting or running away. So the brain releases elements like your stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, as well as agents that affect the immune system like histamine or cytokines. And your bodily resources and your blood diverts to places like our limbs, because if we're trying to avoid death in a matter of seconds, we need all of our resources, blood, everything, to support our limbs to fight or to run. And at that time, obviously, it doesn't really matter how healthy our immune system is if we're about to die. But the thing is, that state is meant to last for only a matter of minutes. And when you're constantly watching the news, you're keeping your body in that sustained state of fear and anxiety. And so when the stress hormones are released in the body to conserve the energy for fight or flight, they essentially weaken or shut down your immune system. So assuming that you're doing everything, like washing your hands regularly, social distancing, eating well, exercising, shutting off that media is something that you can do to really help build up your immune system against, God forbid, corona or any other types of diseases. And the second reason this is really important, and I'm going to start bringing us back into wholesaling now, and I'm going to give you a story with this in a second as well, is the association with your RAS. So if you're unfamiliar, your RAS stands for your reticular activating system. And without going too deep, this is essentially a bundle of nerves in your brainstem that filters out unnecessary information, basically. So back to evolution, there are just so many things in your daily environment. It's just not effective for your brain to try and process them all equally. Your brain needs to filter out the most important stuff. So going back to our example, that saber-toothed tiger from our previous, caveman days, that's stuff we got to focus on. So you may have seen this exercise in a lot of self-help seminars. I know Tony Robbins does it pretty regularly, where he'll say, take 1 minute and find everything red in the room. Search for red, search for red, search for red. And he says, close your eyes. Now tell me everything that was blue. And so the point of the exercise, while it might seem very rudimentary, is that if you are focusing on the wrong things, it's going to be impossible for you to see the opportunities that may be right in front of your face, literally. So the example I have here, the story comes from one of my students. He had a deal under contract, and I asked him, we were talking, I said, hey, how'd you get this one? He was on the phone with what he thought was a motivated seller. He was making his calls. I don't remember where this one specifically was from. Maybe he was calling like a for sale by owner lead or something like that. But the owner wasn't interested, and he almost hung up. But then he asked what I tell all of my students to ask on every call. Hey, do you know anyone else that might be interested in selling? And it turns out that person did know someone. They gave him the lead. He later made that $9,000 with no money down. And I remember him telling me, he was like, yo, I almost didn't ask. Then I remember what you said. And then obviously he went ahead and asked the question. Now, obviously that's not going to work every single time, but with enough volume and understanding the whole 6 degrees of separation concept, again, this is based on a study where you can connect yourself to any other person in the world through 6 or less intermediaries. And actually, with social media, studies from Harvard and Yale show that it's actually closer to 2.5 degrees, meaning that right now you know someone who knows someone who maybe knows someone who is a motivated seller and is bound to bring you a solid lead. And so I really wanted to stress to him. I was like, yo, you see that one question, the one question that took you 20 seconds to ask, that you almost didn't ask, made you $9,000. And so the really cool thing about your RES is it's just like a muscle. You can train it to look for opportunities. And a great way to do that is, you guessed it, to shut off these distractions and silence the narratives and the reasons why there is an opportunity, and instead look for the opportunities. So with that said, let's go ahead and look into the cycles of real estate, where the opportunities are, and what you should be doing as a result. So I got some slides prepared right here, and let's start off with an assessment of our situation. All right, so let's start with a very, very basic understanding of the real estate cycle in the United States. In this graph here, you can see that the real estate market in the US typically moves in a relatively predictable cycle of upward growth in a boom market, followed by a downturn or recession about every 10 years or so. Now, we've been in a period of growth or a boom market for well over 10 years, and many would even say that we've been overdue for a recession. So here are the signs of a growth or seller's market. It's kind of the scholarly version. And here are some examples. So you've got rising sales and prices, asset bubble bursts, increase of unregulated mortgages, rapidly rising interest rates, a greater number of house flippers. So this refers to both wholesalers and fix and flip investors, fewer affordable homes, warnings from officials. Now, here is kind of the common sense version of that. So if you look at this chart here, we've got the phases of real estate in that cycle. And here at the top, we've got a lot of optimism. We've got family and friends who are doing exceptionally well, and they want to share their success stories. And here's where everyone's really trying to get a piece of the pie, right? They're more successful investors. You got more cash buyers. You got mom and pop investors. And when I say that, what I mean is, imagine you have someone or maybe a couple who has, let's say, $10,000 saved up, and they can use it towards their purchase of an investment property, and they borrow the rest of that money from, let's say, a private lender or hard money lender, and then that's their plan for accumulating wealth. With that, you've got an abundance of private lenders and less restrictive lending. And basically, the understanding is that the market is driven by emotion. With that said, look, even here at the very top, there are always, always going to be naysayers. Like, you just can't make anyone happy. So, or make everyone happy, rather. But in the past decade, some common ones we've heard is, oh, there isn't any inventory. There's just too much competition. And here's the thing, yo, haters are going to hate, okay? As a wholesaler, look at this. You are dealing with sellers and buyers in every transaction. So, obviously, what that means is that you can do well in an economy that skews towards benefiting sellers, and you can also do well when the market skews towards buyers, because both of those people, those avatars or archetypes, are a part of your business. So the next question is, well, what happens here? What happens when we start to head towards the bottom? And to highlight that Wall Street Journal article again, we see a growing number of property investors are preparing for what they believe could be a once in a generation opportunity to buy distressed real estate assets at bargain prices. Now, some of these things I'm going to show you and I'm going to suggest to you, they may not happen immediately. I want to be clear about that. We're managing some expectations here. But in order to reap the benefits and capitalize on these things, you need to think of the long play here and start making these pivots and adjustments now to prepare yourself for what's going to happen in the future. So again, a little bit of delayed gratification, and that's why I threw up this Warren Buffett quote again. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. So let's go ahead and take a look at the opportunities. So I believe there are going to be a lot more motivated sellers. We're going to see an increase in foreclosures, and we're going to see an increase in short sales. Now, regardless, really quickly, of what people say about inventory drying up, again, we've heard that for a couple of years. There will always be motivated sellers. Maybe they might not be the same relative to previous years or previous times, but they're always going to be there. People will always lose jobs. Banks will always have foreclosures. There are always going to be folks going through financial hardship. There are always going to be divorces. There are always going to be people who pass away and inherited properties. So you don't need to worry about these things. But what I'm going to show you here is that in the coming months, we can expect an increase in, again, these foreclosures, short sales due to the economic hardships that's been caused by, again, COVID-19. So if we look here at this graph, I mean, The numbers just don't lie. 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment benefits in the last 4 weeks. I don't know if you realize the magnitude of that, but going back the last 10 years, even during the last major recession, the claims were under 1 million. Can you imagine 22 million claims? And not to mention the businesses, not only individuals, but businesses that are going under, and the ripple effect that that has. It truly is pretty crazy. So back to our article here. Mortgage defaults have been few right now, right? But investors expect that to change over the coming weeks and months. Once a borrower defaults, the lender often chooses to sell the loan at a discount to avoid the hassle of a lengthy foreclosure lawsuit. Now, really quickly, I really want to touch on this. Why you aren't an unethical, opportunistic vulture. So let's look at this scenario, right? A homeowner has a house worth $100,000. They've got a good job. Over the last 10 years or so, they paid off 50% of their mortgage, and then enter COVID-19. So they lose their job, and then we're fast forwarding a bit. But after months of trying to recover, the bank's ready to foreclose. So now there are two options on the table. First option, you do nothing. The bank is going to foreclose on their home. The owner gets kicked out of their house. The sheriff forbids them from re-entering the premises. They have no money and nothing to show for the house. Their foreclosure is exposed, and they're the talk of the neighborhood gossip. They have a foreclosure on their credit, effectively preventing them from getting any type of loan for another decade. Now, option number two, you offer to buy their home, and you offer to buy the house for $60,000. So the bank gets the $50K that they're owed. The seller gets to walk away with $10,000 to maybe find a place to rent until they get back on their feet. There are no negative remarks on their credit. There's no social stigma. They will be eligible for a new loan in the future, again, once they get back on their feet. And then you can offer the deal to a cash buyer for, say, $70,000. That buyer is going to get a great deal. Remember, the house is worth $100K, and you make $10,000. So again, you're not unethical, opportunistic, vulture, whatever. We are making win-win-win situations. So moving right along back to our opportunities here, we've got an increase in foreclosures, increase in short sales, and an increase in divorce. And unfortunately, statistically, it has been proven that in times of financial hardship, a lot more divorces happen. Again, assets need to be split, and that's just one more motivated seller. There will also be an increase in probates and inherited properties. Now, again, this disease is impacting particularly our elderly population. I know it sucks, but this is the reality. People do die. One day I'm gonna die if someone sells my house, makes some money. Hopefully it's my daughter, but I'm not gonna be mad at that person. People, and then the people inheriting those properties, they may even be desperate for money. And remember, you don't fault a funeral home for essentially profiting off of death, but rather they're just providing a needed service while they're making their living. And you really are no different. Obviously, you're going to see an increase in frustrated landlords. You got a lot of people, maybe not paying their rent, or people going through hardships. They're going to have trouble paying their rent. It's going to turn into a increase in frustrated landlords here. You're going to have more people selling out of just fear, job loss, or even uncertainty, maybe moving in with their relatives. You're going to have investors that are cutting their losses. Maybe they bought opportunistically in the sense that they had a very positive, optimistic look on the future, what was going to happen. They always say in real estate you should buy based on making the profit on the buy, but a lot of people, they buy based on assumptions of asset appreciation that's going to be happening again with a lot of the mom and pop type investors. So you're going to be seeing those investors looking to cut their losses. Now, as prices bottom out, there will be more foreclosures available as banks release their shadow inventory. Now, as of 2019, there is a minimum of 4-year backlog of bank-owned homes still waiting to be put on the market, according to the National Association of Realtors. If you're unfamiliar, shadow inventory is basically a term used to describe properties. In this case, they're typically real estate owned, meaning bank-owned properties. They've been foreclosed on, but they're being held by the banks. They're not yet listed for sale. They're going to be released into the market at a later date. Now, again, the shadow part basically just says that the bank basically owns them, but they're away from the eyes of the public. And with shadow inventory, It tends to grow when housing markets are struggling. So as we dip, the shadow inventory gets a little bit bigger, but the banks will start to release more of those foreclosed properties from that shadow inventory once the market is set to grow again. And that's going to give buyers and investors a chance to get really cheap properties that will increase in value. All right, so some more opportunities we got here, right? We got decreased competition. So there's going to be fear. That's inevitable. And that's going to stop a lot of potential wholesalers, new people, from even getting started. Again, a lot of wholesalers currently are going to quit. And these are going to be the doubters and also the dabblers, people who are basically doing this as a hobby, treating this like a hobby and not like a business. Interestingly enough, Zillow, Redfin, and other iBuyers are no longer buying. That was a huge surprise to me. And going back to our Wall Street Journal article, coronavirus test viability of house flipping iBuyers. So the iBuyers specifically referring to the four biggest iBuyers: Open Door Labs Inc., Zillow Group Inc., OfferPad LLC, and Redfin. They have all stopped buying houses as of March 2020. Um, Again, that was something incentivized to make it easier for homeowners to sell, but with the risk, they have stopped buying and may not come back into the market. So you just have a huge opportunity there. With that said, you can also make offers with better terms in your favor. A lot of sellers, even agents, are more, they recognize what's going on, right? They see what's happening. And so you can get away with making lower offers, longer inspection periods, and even lower deposits if that's something that helps you out. So moving right along, this is a really cool one. Going virtual is now a normalized asset. So obviously wholesaling can be done remotely. That's something that's been attractive to me for a long time, well before we got into the whole COVID thing, meaning that, I love that about this business. Even when I flip a house a few miles from my house, it's very rare that I actually go there. And again, this is a personal choice. I've had people say, "Hey man, aren't you missing out on opportunities?" And sure, that could absolutely be true. But and again, there are times where I do physically go to properties, but the way I look at it is this. Let's say I'm in West Palm Beach, right? If I have a deal in Miami, I drive 1 hour to go and meet homeowner, and then 30 minutes to meet, or even to do a showing or something like that, and then drive an hour back. That's 2.5 hours. There are cases where I do that, where it makes sense to do that, but overall, looking at the bigger picture, within that 2.5 hours, number one, it's a lifestyle choice. I like to work from home, work from a coffee shop, work from Starbucks in the summertime. Obviously, you guys know, probably, I go to Vegas. I'm sitting in a hotel room. I book a hotel room every year for about a month and a half, 2 months, and I do deals from there. So that lifestyle is attractive to me. But even from home, within that 2.5 hours, during that same amount of time, I can make 60 offers. I can put deals under contract, and I can still go on a bike ride with my daughter. So that's just one thing that I love about this business, but it's more common now. Given the whole COVID pandemic, you aren't limited to your physical market. So I do recommend going narrow and deep, but in time, you can branch out to other markets. You can do JV deals with people who maybe have boots on the ground in a certain market. And there isn't any more stigma related to things like e-signatures, sight unseen offers, video tours, opposition to a seller sending you a lot of photos, or maybe taking a video tour for doing mobile closings. These are things that have been validated and justified by the pandemic. Now in my experience, I haven't dealt with too much stigma related to this, but there are that sub segment of sellers who are maybe a little bit weirded out by things like, well, how are you going to sign a contract and make an offer without seeing the property? A lot of times that is just, a lot of people are overly skeptical given the world we live in today, and they think, oh, maybe this is some type of scam. But no, this pandemic has kind of validated again and justified why this makes sense. A lot of sellers do not want to do open houses. They don't want a ton of traffic and a ton of people just walking through their house day after day, week after week. And with that said, selling through a traditional realtor and signing an exclusive listing agreement has become far, far less attractive. So, what does this mean for finding motivated sellers? Well, you want to keep your marketing up and or increase, and there will be, and that's again because there will be more motivated sellers in the coming months. And again, you may not see all of them right now, but they should be seeing you. And I've seen a lot of advice from people online, a lot of different channels saying, get lean in your business. And I think that you should get lean, especially if this is an issue for you in other areas of your life, but cut there first. Um, I would recommend making your marketing budget the very last thing that you start to cut and getting lean on. So really take the time. If you haven't made a budget, go ahead and make a budget. I personally, in making my budget, use a program software online resource called YNAB. YNAB, meaning you need a budget. There are some free options out there you can use as well. I know a lot of people that use Mint, but the thing with Mint is that basically what it does is it gives you a screenshot of where you spent your money in the past. Not a bad thing, still a good thing to look at. With You Need a Budget, the thing I really like about this is, yes, it gives you that snapshot of where your money went in the past, but it allows you to really plan out in a very diligent way how you will be budgeting and spending your money in the future. This is a paid service. I think it's like $12 a month or something like that. And you're saying, it's like, Mike, you're telling me to budget, but you're telling me to spend money. But this is something I think is well worth it. If you do spend that money, you're going to see a return, because it really just, elucidates and really puts a spotlight on where your money is going, so you can save where, maybe it's not time for those new shoes or that new cell phone or that new car, and you can still keep your marketing budget strong. On that note, there are going to be costs that most likely decrease. So if you're doing online ads, SEO, PPC type of stuff, a lot of wholesalers are going to reduce their budgets, fall back, contract, or even quit. So you've got a little bit of opportunity there. Do what others can't or won't do right now. So that means things like driving for dollars. If that's an option for you, make sure that you are doing that, and doing that as often as possible, really trying to get ahead of the curve here. At this time, I would recommend that you make slightly lower offers in the immediate future. Give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. Understand some of your buyers might be a little bit tentative, so you want to give them those real steals. So when we talk about our max allowable offer, you guys know and have known probably for some time that the formula for that is basically the ARV, the after repaired value, times 70%, and then even minus repairs minus your profit. Now, because I work in a market here in South Florida that is in very, very high demand, again, in relatively, you know, compared to years previous, lower inventory, but still higher demand, I have been able to sell regularly a lot of my wholesale deals at 80 and 85% of ARV. So at this time, I'm going to be going back to my baseline. And again, this can still vary, but in just as a default, back to that baseline of 70% of ARV, just because of the uncertainty of our environment at the time. Next, I want to recommend that you don't um, need, or kind of emphasize, you don't need to have a home run every single time. Don't be greedy. In the immediate future, you may settle for smaller profits, and realize that that is only to fuel your business, to keep you in business, and to ramp up in the future months as things stabilize. So again, when you might think, hey man, I should be making 20K or 25K off this deal because the numbers make sense. Understand, empathize with your buyers. Again, don't be a sucker, but like, if you make $10,000 or someone gives you that offer, my recommendation would be to take it and not maybe wait for the potential. Next, take massive, massive action. Realize that right now, a lot of your so-called competition, they're paralyzed. They're not sure what to do. They don't realize that any action is better than no action. So a lot of your competition is going to be paralyzed by uncertainty. They're going to be binging on Netflix, and they're going to be doing things like working on their latest TikTok videos. Back to our article, Wall Street Journal. Look, the current environment presents the sort of circumstances that risk-taking property investors say can make a career. So with that said, I want you to understand that regardless of what's happening, cash buyers are still buying. This is a fact. So we look at this graph here. You can see that because of where we are, this is the time where really experienced and really professional buyers buy. This is from a gentleman who's a wholesaler and also a buyer in my local market. I know I'm a good dude here, and we've got his Facebook post. People are asking me if I'm still doing deals right now. Just wholesale this last week. Two exclamation points here, people, not just one. $50,000 profit and didn't touch the property. We got the homeowner out of a $500,000 mortgage, negotiated with the city of Hollywood personally, and got $752,000 in liens from violations, down to $13,000. Sold it, and now the homeowner never has to worry about the mortgage or liens again. Win-win. Quick reminder here, how and why investors benefit from real estate even in a recession. So rents often increase in a down economy. Remember, a lot of people losing their homes, foreclosures, they have to go somewhere, right? So they're gonna rent. There are a lot of tax benefits of real estate. The purchasing power of real estate, meaning that if you want to buy $100,000 worth of stock, you need $100,000. But you can take $10,000 and still purchase $100,000 worth of real estate. Next, we have asset appreciation, meaning over time, the value of your property and what it's worth will go up. And almost somewhat paradoxically, you have depreciation, which going back to tax benefits, saying, well, even though the asset is appreciating, you can say, well, because the asset's getting older, it's depreciating, and you can claim that on your taxes. And so that's just another benefit there. And again, real estate is tangible, meaning back to our stock example, if you own $10,000 worth of stock, that's paper. It's number in a computer. If the company goes under, if something happens, that can all be erased to zero. No matter how bad a real estate market gets, even if prices drop, that's tangible. It's land. It's physically there. You can touch it. And the market will come back and you will always have that. So with that said, that's just to reinforce that, again, cash buyers are still buying. Again, one of my favorite people to quote, we got Warren Buffett here. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. And you can see on the diagram here, it's during the dips where Warren Buffett would try and buy real estate. And so what I want to do now is build an archetype of the cash buyers that we're looking at now that kind of buy into this mentality. So the cash buyer profile right now, these are going to tend to be more experienced investors. These are going to be liquid investors who have cash on hand or investors with access to private money. There are going to be a lot of international buyers. One thing you need to realize, we get a little cocky here in the US, but not every country has FDIC insured banks. So as there's all this uncertainty and crazy shit going around the world, a lot of people have money in banks where if the bank goes under or if stuff happens, if the economy tanks, they have no guarantees, right? That money is not backed up. So they're more or less just looking to let me grab my money and put it somewhere safe. Let me put it into some US real estate, which I know is at least a safer investment, particularly in a hot market where I am, such as Florida. So international buyers are going to be a big one who are buying right now. Next, we have our holders. So these are our landlords, the people buying for the long term. They're buying, they want to hold this property for 50 years, give it to their kids. You probably won't see as many either fly-by-night investors or rehabbers who are looking to fix and flip, very short-term flips. And next, you are going to find some investors who are looking to move their money out of stocks or other failing or risky assets. As we've seen the stock market kind of tanking in days, you got people out there who have 401ks or just own different stocks who may say, hey, this is maybe not be the time. I'm going to put my money into something a little bit more secure. Maybe for some of the reasons we looked at earlier, such as a resource that is tangible. So again, just kind of side by side here, comparing cash buyers during a boom. We've got a lot more buyers. Everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie. You got less experienced kind of mom and pop buyers. There's an ease of lending. Everyone's very optimistic. You've got a lot of rehabbers doing deals. And of course, there's going to be some crossover here, but we're talking just in general. And then the cash buyers kind of during a bust, they're going to be less buyers, but those buyers are going to be in a buying frenzy. They're going to be very liquid buyers, buyers that have cash, or at least buyers who have access to private capital. You're going to see more seasoned and experienced investors who know what they're doing. You're going to see a lot of international buyers and, again, a lot of holders. And so to finish off that article, just to highlight our Wall Street Journal article, our thoughts and prayers are with all of our fellow Americans. And, nobody wants to capitalize on anybody's misfortune. But I will tell you, real estate investors, when you take the emotion out of it, many of them have been waiting for this for a decade. So with that said, I want to jump to my screen and show you guys a little bit more of what I'm focusing on now and what I think is probably the biggest potential and one of the biggest things that you should be focusing on right now. Cool. All right. So, here we are inside of my CRM. Now, these are all cash buyers, and there's some really, really good information here. So you can see the number of properties purchased, which is obviously important, but even more important is the segmentation. So this is where my current focus is right now. We start with the holders, and as we move along here, you'll see how the segmentation gets more specific and filters down to the most ideal buyers that I'm looking for right now. So we got your out-of-state holders, international buyers, and then international holders. So this is going to be money. So in the coming months, I may have, let's say, less buyers buying, but those who are buying are going to be in a buying frenzy. So for every one property I may have sold to a mom and pop or a rehabber who does one deal at a time, I might sell like 10 properties to one buyer here. Now, in addition to my standard, direct mail campaigns and also my Facebook ads, I'm finding it, more important now than ever to reach out personally. And yes, you can give this task to a VA or outsource it, but given these times, I've made a personal decision to reach out and talk to people directly, really making that connection. Even if we can't quite be face to face, this is like the next best thing. And I know, looking through the lens of traditional like business school ROI, or the 4-hour work week, or even the E-Myth, great book by Michael Gerber, this might not be the best use of your time in terms of measurable ROI. But I think that not everything can be measured in just numbers, and this is the time to really focus on your relationship building. And remember, like, yeah, you want to do as much business as possible. That goes without saying. It's obvious. But if you only do one decent deal a month, you're already in the six-figure income earner bracket, making double what the average American household pulls in. So, give your buyers a call. Hey, how are you doing with the whole COVID thing? Are you still buying? Like, how can I help? And you want to really come from a place of authenticity and genuine caring. Getting a conversation going and focusing on relationship building is really going to go a long way, both now and perhaps even more importantly, as things start to get better and we return to some sense of normalcy. And if that seems overwhelming, I mean, there are literally hundreds of thousands of buyers. Just focus on consistency. So that means kind of lower your expectations. Don't try and call 1,000 people a day. You're probably not going to do it. You're going to end up discouraged. So set a realistic goal, but stick to it every single day. So I've made a commitment to talk to at least 10 buyers a day, which again, this is not a huge number, but the momentum from those initial 10 calls usually puts me in a place where I end up talking to a lot more people. And also on the flip side, some days I may not hit large volume, but I may talk to a really, really good buyer for like an hour. So it's a quality over quantity, right? Also, I've received a few questions where people ask me, what if the cash buyer listed is an LLC? Is that still a cash buyer? Or should I stick to, only records with personal names? So the answer is yes, pursue those. Most cash buyers will have an LLC set up, and that's a really, really good thing because one, it shows that they are likely very serious buyers, and two, LLCs are a lot easier to trace, meaning that you can usually find their contact information, email addresses, phone numbers with a simple Google search. So here in Florida, you can just go to sunbiz.org and find all the details of every LLC. And shit, as a matter of fact, there's actually a guy that I meant to reach out to yesterday. Honestly, I kind of just forgot, slipped my mind. But what we can do is I can actually just reach out to him right now. Hey Jalal, the king. Hopefully that's a decent rendition. Hey man, this is Mike Hill. We actually met at the very first 10X Growth Conference down at the Diplomat in Aventura, Miami. We actually sat right next to each other years ago, and man, I've been following you on social media. Been very much inspired by your story and all the value you share to our community, and also what you've done business-wise ever since. The reason I'm contacting you today is because I'm a wholesaler here in South Florida. I get deeply discounted properties, primarily single-family, in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami. Now, while the majority of my business is in Palm Beach, Broward, I've got some deals right now in your neck of the woods over in Miami, and I wanted to see if you were still buying, if you'd be perhaps interested. I'm going to go ahead and send you the link to those properties. In addition, you might even have some buyers who might be interested, and if so, I'd be very much interested in doing some joint venture deals. Maybe we can do some business together, split those profits up 50-50. Also, I'm actually in the middle of doing a YouTube video right now, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a shout out. I don't think you're going to mind at all, but just wanted to mention, man, I think you do have a very inspiring story and a lot of value, again, that you give to our community. And I've got a growing YouTube audience, and I'll probably send you the URL to that channel, to my channel as well. So if you ever want to come on, man, if you got 2 minutes. Maybe we could even do an Instagram live, or 2 hours. I do think you've got a great story, great energy, great work ethic, and a lot of stuff to add to the community. So I'd love to have you. Also, if the things that I send you are not a good fit for you or even your buyers, and there's something else that you're looking for right now, please let me know, man. I'd be happy to put together a marketing campaign and basically to get you what you need. So again, man, I know you're doing well. Again, following you on social media, but I'm gonna hope that you're staying safe and healthy, and that your family is doing well during this time. And man, just good to connect, and I really, really hope to hear from you. Hopefully, we'll do some real estate stuff together, which would be cool, and hopefully, we do some maybe social media stuff together. That'd be cool too, man. So again, take care, and thanks again, and I hope to talk to you soon, man. All right. Not the perfectly polished thing, but again, that's really cool dude, man. So he's the king of Miami real estate. I'll go ahead and throw his info up here in a second. But as I said, I met him at the first 10x growth conference. We were lucky enough to sit next to each other. Great energy. The guy's story is amazing. I believe he came over from like Jordan, and he had no family here. He had no money. Being the hustler that he is, he got a job with Grant Cardone. He kind of thought like, I have it made, and sorry, he actually got fired from that job. So he's very open about it. He talks about it. He takes full responsibility. And for some time, I think he was like homeless. He was living in his car. And now he's gone on to start his own real estate investing business. He's got his own company, multi-million-dollar business, works out of Miami. And he's got a unique way of doing things. He's got a really cool style, a lot of really good energy. So kind of vibe with a lot of his content. So again, go ahead and give him a follow. And hopefully he and I will be doing some business together in the very near future. So yeah, check him out. And let's get back to some stuff we're talking about here. Also, a pro tip here, right? Use video. When you text people, especially people who get a lot of messages, you can be overlooked. But pretty much everyone watches video message. So go ahead and stand out. Now, moving right along, a couple more things for you here. With regards to the cash buyers, now obviously, I recommend you should be reaching out and talking to buyers. But that said, drum roll, here comes the plug. I've been doing this for like the last decade. I have thousands of cash buyers on my list, and I'm growing it daily. And as I said, I'm going to be re-engaging a lot of my buyers pretty aggressively. So if you want to partner, let's do it. I'm trying to get paid. I'm happy to see you guys get paid. And I essentially have half of that work done for you, like years of effort done for you. So if you have a property under direct contract in the state of Florida, please don't send me daisy chain properties from other investors, but you have the contract. And if the numbers make sense, again, please don't send me retail stuff. I'll be happy to send to my buyers, and we can split the profits 50-50. Now, this isn't any type of training I'm talking about. There's no cost or anything like that. Just me reaching out to you, reaching out to my audience and saying, yo, let's do some business together. Also, no obligation with this. Like, I'd be happy to be your plan B. So try to sell your deal yourself. I mean, so that you get 100% of your profits by all means. And if you can't, I'm happy to be your backup plan to split the deal. Like I always say, it's better to have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. That said, if you are interested in the training aspect and more specific action steps, it's like a lot of people watch videos. They get good information. They understand the theories. But sometimes like, okay, like I get it, but what should I actually be doing on a day-to-day basis? And so I'm going to drop a link to Wholesaling with Mike University. This gives you that step-by-step system on how to, find deals, put together your contracts, find buyers, sell them. I mean, includes over-the-shoulder style videos, screen shares, tools, contracts. It's everything you need to do your deals. But I think more importantly is that action plan. And the unique thing about the plan that I provide is that it's not a one-size-fits-all plan. Again, that really just doesn't work. You might see a lot of things online, 30-day action plan, 90-day action plan. But, I've had students who they have tons of time and no money. And I've had students who have like a sizable marketing budget, but very limited time. And so for obvious reasons, you should understand like the strategies for those two people are going to look completely different. And so there are a lot of strategies out there that do work, but it's like that whole square peg and round hole analogy. You have to match your situation to the appropriate strategy. So I give you that blueprint to match your market and your resources with the appropriate plan. I've also got brand new modules coming that are specific to the pandemic. So again, I'm going to add all that information in the description. One more thing that can really help you here is I've allocated 30 minutes to an hour a few times a week to do free, absolutely free one-on-one phone consultations to answer any of your questions. Now, favor, if you're watching this and you've been on one of these calls with me, I want to just drop a message down in the comments. Kind of just a little testimonial saying how the call went, any type of value received from it. I think that'd be really cool, and I would very much appreciate that. Remember, there are just a few of these slots that I have blocked off every week. You will be speaking directly to me, and so as a result, these spaces are extremely limited. Not sure how long I'm going to be doing this, but if you want to grab a spot, be sure to do that. Click that link and register ASAP. Now, with that said, I really want to encourage you guys, just more than anything, to take massive action. This is going to be a very short window of time to get yourself set up for the massive opportunity that's coming. And again, things may be a little slow for a while. We talked about expectations a little bit earlier, but that's going to be the perfect time to set yourself up to be in a very good place when we start to rebound. So if this is something you dabbled in before, maybe you watched a bunch of videos, but you haven't really fully committed, right now is actually the best time to make a decision and fully just commit to this. Especially you may have seen firsthand how unsecure a lot of jobs actually are. Also with the lockdown, you probably have more free time to commit to this. It's just such a unique time. I mean, I remember starting this business while I was working a 60-hour work week, and I had a 1-year-old at home. Right? So this is a golden opportunity. And if you use the next 30 to 90 days to really go, 100%, give it everything, that type of momentum can just put you years ahead. You can literally accomplish in 30 days what most people take like a year to do, and really catapult yourself to just new levels of success. Especially, again, remember, when most of your so-called competition is either paralyzed by uncertainty or binging Netflix, no discipline, or again, they're working on their latest TikTok. So, isolation, quarantine, it can be very challenging. If you see my Instagram, you can probably tell I've had my struggles with the social stuff or lack thereof. But again, focus on what you have control over. And I recommend that you take some time, sit all alone, really do this, sit by yourself and really visualize, like, how is my life going to look 3 months from today? I mean, again, brand new, unprecedented, once in a lifetime, very novel opportunity. In 3 months, are you going to be the same person you are today? Maybe a little bit more depressed, maybe with a little bit less money, maybe with more debt challenges and obstacles while your $1,200 check ran out weeks ago. Or are you going to be like Tony Stark from the Iron Man movie? You're trapped in a cave, imprisoned in isolation, and you work so diligently. You just bust out of that cave as fucking Iron Man. So yeah, I know this was a long video. Most people, to be honest, haven't made it this far. Haven't watched to the end. If you did, follow me on Instagram at MikeHillTWT and DM me saying I made it till the end. And I'm gonna hook you up with some free shit just as a thank you gift. Really appreciate you staying till the end. Final thought here. Look, while there's a lot of negatives, we got sickness, job loss, stories of hoarders, unethical people, there's also a lot of positive things that have come out of this and has the potential. So today we just talked about business, but I've seen a lot of kindness from people. We've seen our environment improving, pollution levels dropping, wildlife returning. There's been an emphasis on family, maybe spending more time with your kids. The validation that working from home is a viable option. The recalibration of our values and the things that really matter. And I hope you use this time to think about what you really want in your life, envision it, and then reverse engineer it. And I'm more than happy if I can add to the prospect of making that dream a reality for you. I really want to thank you for watching. I really can't tell you guys how much I appreciate it. As usual, if you got some value from the video, please do like, comment, subscribe, even just say hi. Hit the bell notification. It does really help the channel out a great deal. It helps tremendously with that YouTube algorithm. Still figuring out, but so more people can check out this dope ass content. Don't forget to follow me on IG at MikeHillTWT, and please do share this video on your social media and with anyone else you think might get some value from this. Maybe you can even find some partners who will go into this stuff with you. So with that said, I'm sending you positive vibes and well wishes. I hope you're staying safe. I really look forward to speaking with you in the comments, on social media, on the phone for some of you, and of course in the next video. And now I just want to leave you guys with a post from my daughter's school. They post this in our Facebook group, PTA Facebook group. They say if they cancel the rest of the school year, students would miss 2.5 months of education. Many people are concerned about students falling behind because of this. Yes, they may fall behind when it comes to classroom education, but what if instead of falling behind, this group of kids are advanced because of this? Hear me out. What if they have more empathy? They enjoy family connection. They can be more creative and entertain themselves. They love to read. They love to express themselves in writing. What if they enjoyed the simple things like their own backyard and sitting near a window in the quiet? What if they noticed the birds and the dates, the different flowers emerge, and the calming renewal of a gentle rain shower? What if this generation are the ones to learn to cook, organize their space, do their laundry, and keep a well-run home? What if they learn to stretch a dollar and to live with less? What if they learn to plan shopping trips and meals at home? What if they learn the value of eating together as a family and finding the good to share in the small delights of the everyday? What if they're the ones to place great value on our teachers and educational professionals, librarians, public servants, and the previously invisible essential support workers like truck drivers, grocers, cashiers, custodians, logistics, and healthcare workers, and their supporting staff, just to name a few of the millions taking care of us right now while we're sheltered in place? What if among these children a great leader emerges who had the benefit of a slower pace and a simpler life to truly learn what really matters in this life? What if they're ahead? So there's opportunity for all of us here. Really wishing you guys all the best. I love you guys. I hope you are doing well. Can't wait to talk to you again. And just remember that, we really do have some opportunity here, and I hope that we all make the best of it. So cheers. Thank you again. Blessings. Much love. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.